Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade.
And I'm Russ Riesinger. An update tonight on the death of a young Lockwood student. The lost life sending sadness through the small community and the school district.
Now, the school and authorities not releasing any specific details about the boy or the situation, but tonight there is a GoFundMe account established for the Fisher family for the loss of Michael Fisher. The account specifically addresses medical and funeral expenses for the boy. The GoFundMe is filled with kind messages and has already been shared more than 800 times, reaching more than $3,400.
A post on the Lockwood School's Facebook page this afternoon alerted followers about the death of a student and that Lockwood parents should be ready to talk with their children. It states, quote, even though this accident happened while it's home, not at school, we believe it's best to inform all intermediate school parents of the situation, as all our students will likely be affected emotionally.
The post also states counselors will be available during the Easter break to help Lockwood students deal with the death. Counselors will be available on Thursday, tomorrow, from 8 a.m. to noon at the Lockwood School's intermediate office. For more details on other available counseling times, go to this story at ktvq.com. That is the sound of one of the last emergency sirens here in Yellowstone County.
After years of use, the sirens are becoming obsolete. The main concern, the lack of information that sirens provide.
So now the blare of sirens becomes the buzz of a phone.
Tonight, the first test of Yellowstone County's new emergency alert system, Code Red.
There are still a lot of questions out there about this new system, especially for those who don't have or don't often use smartphones. The good news for those folks, you can sign up using a computer to get alerts to a landline telephone or even to an email address. The county decided to make this switch so important emergency alerts would get out to more people filled with more detailed information.
The current sirens only cover about 1% of the land area of the county and are only used for weather emergencies, whereas the new system can help alert residents about other emergency situations like evacuations, flooding, as well as hazmat situations or even criminal activity.
Now, for more information on how to get signed up, you can find this story at ktvq.com.
As the Montana legislature enters its final days, lawmakers are busy putting the final touches on the $10 billion state budget. A key element of that process is something called a companion bill, where money or programs are stuffed into these bills at the last minute. And that process has come under criticism. But today at the Capitol, lawmakers openly address these complaints and how things should work. MTN's chief political reporter, Mike Dennison, has the story.
1 week ago, Senate Bill 352 was a single open-ended sentence on transferring money in the state budget. But late last week, the House Appropriations Committee placed 9 pages and $38 million in spending authority into this bill for programs in 24 other bills. And now SB 352 is going to a 6-member conference committee where it could get changed further as lawmakers hammer out the final budget. That move prompted some words of caution Wednesday on the Senate floor.
I get a little nervous for the taxpayers of Montana because I am concerned that they will not have be part of the discussion, quite frankly.
Keep your eyes on it. This is when a lot of your bills that may have been met demise, and they may have had a little money in them. This is where we prioritize our session at the very end.
Senate Bill 352 is one of several so-called companion bills which are used to tie up loose ends in the overall budget by the end of the session, which could come as early as next week. Most of the spending is in the main budget bill, House Bill 2. But a potential final vote on that bill was delayed Wednesday in the House. House Appropriations Committee Chair Nancy Balance of Hamilton told MTN News she wants to hang on to the bill until she's assured the companion bills cover any spending outside of HB 2. Critics of the process say companion bills have been used to insert spending or pet projects that didn't get approval in the regular process. But Senate leaders on Wednesday insisted the process is an open one.
In terms of transparency, I think this is actually an advance to the system. Back in the day when just a couple people sat around after House Bill 2 had passed, and they had 2 piles of bills. Ones that were in, ones that were out.
The proof will be in the pudding as these bills undergo any last-minute changes in these final days of the session. At the Capitol, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Session is scheduled to finish no later than May 1st, but could wrap up by the end of next week.
Well, a bill that seemed to sail effortlessly through the Montana legislative session this year aims to further give sexual assault survivors justice.
The timing comes at a time when nationally we recognize Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Q2's Andrea Lutz breaks down what the bill means for sexual assault survivors going forward. Andrea?
Well, that is right. In 2015, Attorney General Tim Fox launched a sexual assault task force. It's nationally at a time when there was a growing concern over untested rape kits stacking up in evidence lockers across the country. Senate Bill 52 aims to lock in the progress of the task force and continue to regulate how cases are investigated. Governor Steve Bullock, he in fact signed that bill on Tuesday. Well, the bill accomplishes four main things: develop a timetable for how to handle those collected kits, give victims a way of understanding their rights, establish a 4-year mandate for all rape kits to be reviewed, and develop a rape kit tracking system that will keep in place what the state already does.
I think that's an important step so that survivors feel like they have more information about what's going on. We've heard a lot of survivors say that they just felt cut out of the process in the past, and so we want to definitely improve that.
Well, there is more to all of this. The state crime lab in Missoula has now seen an influx in kits. The bill will also give that agency a little bit of investment to handle all of that. And Attorney General Tim Fox said that all of this really is making big strides in the way that Montana is ensuring that survivors get justice.
All right. Thanks so much, Andrea.
Turning to weather now, Bob, we'll all be feeling 78 soon, and that doesn't include the arthritis.
Oh, it's going to feel really good, though. Let me show you what's going to happen. Here, we got this put together here, and we're going to show you that you're around 70 degrees tomorrow, 78 degrees on Friday, and that got us thinking, when was the last time we had such warm temperatures? Well, for the 70-degree reading, you don't have to go back too far. Just go back to April 7th. That was just last week. We got to 70 degrees that day. And if you want to go back a little bit farther, we warmed up a little bit more, up to 73 on October 20th. That was the last time we got that warm. And then also a little farther back, warmer, 74 degrees on October 18th. But if you want to go to where we got to 78 degrees, you got to go all the way back to September 22nd of 2018. That's when we hit 85 that day. Anyway, we'll have more in your forecast on the Easter weekend forecast coming up in a few more minutes.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
Washington tonight bracing for the release of a redacted version of the Mueller report on Russian interference in the 2016 election.
The Justice Department said Congress and the public will see it tomorrow. Nicole Killian is at the White House with a look at what we can expect.
President Trump made no mention of the pending release of the redacted Mueller report at a White House event on community investment.
It's a great honor.
The long-awaited report will be released tomorrow. In a 4-page summary, Attorney General William Barr said the special counsel found no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia in 2016. But he also noted the report does not exonerate the president, particularly on the question of obstruction of justice.
Could the president still be implicated in this report?
Certainly.
Mary McCord is a former acting assistant attorney general at the Department of Justice.
What we may or may not see, depending on redactions, is the extent to which there may have been wrongdoing, and then people can make a judgment for themselves.
The White House insists it has not seen the Mueller report in advance and continues to claim President Trump has been vindicated. Tomorrow, the Attorney General will hold a press conference to discuss the report before it is sent to Capitol Hill.
The fact that the Attorney General is not releasing even the redacted report to Congress until after his press conference will again result in the report being presented through his own words rather than through the words of Special Counsel Mueller.
And tonight, the president posted a fundraising message saying, join the official Defend the President coalition before the Mueller report is released tomorrow. Nicole Killian, CBS News, the White House.
House Democrats have not ruled out using a subpoena to get the full report.
The president's lawyers are already preparing a rebuttal that is expected after the redacted report is made public.
Well, coming up on tonight's 10 o'clock news, Montana breathing easy from drought for now. We'll check in on the outlook next.
Plus, in this MSU design, you'll be driving on sunshine. Find out more about its latest developments.
And in sports, Scott hears from the Grizz athletic director and what worries him about the likelihood of legalized sports betting in Montana.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.